Okay, Jessica, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, great. This is weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so how we're going to start is, first of all, I want to know how long you were incarcerated
I
originally,
was okay. 16 months the last time.
and where were you at?
I was at FWRC on the main unit and on the annex.
Okay, and how long have you been out?
I EOS September 2016.
Okay,
So
so that's almost what, a year and a half, couple years?
yeah, going on a year and a half.
Okay, and can I ask what your crime was?
Yeah, it was sales of um opiates.
Okay. So you were telling me that you might go back. Can you kind of explain the circumstances behind that?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and touch on this real quickly. I EOS from Florida Department of Corrections, September of 2016, and they put you out back on the streets with nothing, and I got back into my old lifestyle, and by February of 2017, I was rearrested for multiple drug charges, 2 counts of sale of Dilaudid, let me see, a possession of the MDMA, possession of Tylenol 3 with codeine, possession of oxymorphone, tampering with evidence, possession of paraphernalia. Yeah, that was it. And my bond was $119,750. So, God willing, at that time, I was able to bond out because my family helped me out at this point because I was just diagnosed the week before all of this with stage 2 breast cancer. And they know what the medical treatment is like for inmates because they've seen me go through it most of my life being in and out of jail and prison and how badly inmates are medically, neglected. So they didn't want me to lose my doctor and end up probably dying in jail waiting for all this to happen. So they helped me out a little bit and made arrangements so the bondsman would, come get me. And I was released, and I've been fighting my case and just hired a private attorney a few months ago, and their first offer was 8 years back in prison. Now, I will say of all the times of being in and out, probably most of my life, I'm 37 now, but probably been in more than out. They've never put me on probation, never been on house arrest, never treatment, never anything for, ongoing. Obviously, I have a serious drug problem. And now in this last year, I have received treatment. I've been going to a clinic for a year, and they're just not willing to do anything other than send me back to prison. So
Wow. And where is your breast cancer at this point?
It's in remission.
It's in Rio. Oh, good. That's good. That's
Yes, I
good.
had I had a surgery, and they removed the mass and everything. Nothing's came back, so everything looks good as of right now.
I keep getting messages. So when might you go back? When are you going to find out?
I go back to court. It says for a change of plea, May 2nd. Now,
May 2nd.
I don't know what the plea is, but the last plea that they offered was the 8 years. The lawyer hasn't told me anything. He said I have about 90 days out here or I have to go to trial.
Okay. So can I ask what circumstances in your life led up to your incarceration? Childhood, were you sexually abused? Did you have a lot of trauma in your childhood, or did you grow up normally? You had a good family?
Um, I I grew up pretty okay, but I made a lot of bad choices, and those choices put me in out of jail and struggled with addiction for many, many years now. And rather than going out and harming individuals, I've done things to support my habit rather than, I guess, harming somebody directly and, going up to them and robbing them or breaking in their homes. I've kind of sold drugs to support my habit, and that's what continued me in and out of jail as far as that goes. And abuse out there on the streets, sexually, verbal, physical, yes, all of that, it's a very tough life out there.
Right, right. So, how old were you when you first went to prison?
The first time I was arrested for the first time when I was probably, I want to say 12 or 13 years old. And then went as a juvenile on and on and on. And then when I turned 18, I was 18. And then I was 24 the first time I was sentenced to any amount of time.
Okay.
And just since then, it doesn't go very long. And then, it just happens again. It's just, a real bad cycle.
Okay. And when you went to prison the first time, which facility did you go to?
BCI and Lowell.
Okay. So while you were incarcerated this last time, or I guess all of the times, did you experience any verbal, physical, or sexual harassment from the COs?
Oh, yes, absolutely. All three of them. I mean, I'm not really sure. I'm trying to think of the best way to describe how it happens. Some people can go to prison and they don't notice them at all, and they can maintain themselves and, do in and out of a, daily routine, but then they target certain people. And once you get targeted by a sergeant and he's got his, say, for example, his 4 or 5, friends that he works with, they're going to start, picking on you. And once they have their certain picks, and if you're on that list, you're going down. They're going to do anything they can to take you to confinement, go ahead and do a use of force on you, spray you, do whatever they can to basically harm you. And that happens daily. And so if you're a lucky one that can fly under the radar and, move across the compound and do what you need to do and get back, and they just don't notice you or decide you don't, do whatever they, it is that they have in their sick minds that they want to, harm somebody, and you're messed up if you get on one of their radars, because they work in basically teams, and they take bets. I mean, you'll hear them laughing about basically like, oh, well, I'm going to do a better use of force today, and oh, I sprayed this one, and I did that. That's just normal conversation. You hear them, snickering between each other, and they make jokes about it and laugh about it, and it's nothing to joke about. Those are, serious things, and of course they have a video camera when something like that does happen, but that takes a few minutes to get there. They've already done it at that point, and I've seen it. I've seen them jump on inmates. I've seen them spray them. I've seen them throw them to the ground. I've seen them handcuffed and, just really hurting somebody. That's on the abuse. I mean, that's just physical. The verbal abuse is awful, and that goes to a lot of people. They will just degrade you as much as they can. And then, the sexual abuse, I can tell you that happens too. I mean, all of it has happened to me, and they go ahead and they can basically, like I said, someone gets targeted, and then it's they basically are trying to, let me see how the best way to say it is, they bring most of the contraband in. So if you have an officer that knows that he can go ahead and he's trying to mess around with you or whatever, he's going to give that girl items or whatever, and and then you get that stuff from him, and that's how they make their money.
Do you have any specific instances of anything that directly happened to you as far as getting sprayed or?
Oh, I've been sprayed with the mace. I mean, I can say, let me think. Last, well, let me think. 2016, I was at FWRC, and I was probably only there for about 4 weeks from coming from the county jail. And this girl starts screaming and hollering and everything, and she comes over there by my bunk area, comes into my bunk area and starts arguing with me, and I kept telling her, just get away from me. And next thing I know, there's about 15, 20 officers come running in there, and they grab her, they grab me, and she kind of like tussled with them. And then next thing I know, there's two of them spraying me and her with the mace, and dragging us to the Alpha dorm, to confinement, put you in the shower, and then sit there for 15 days before they did the DR hearing. Then those days don't count. Then they give you 60 days in confinement, and it's 2.5 months later before you get out. It's crazy, and you can't beat the DRs next to never.
Right. And what was your experience with medical?
Oh, well, see, with medical, absolutely awful. I'm an epileptic with a seizure disorder, and I came from the county jail, and, they had me on medication that I took twice a day, and it was probably, a week and a half before I even received my medication that I have to take every single day, twice a day. And see, this just goes to show how backwards it is, because now I was there for that amount of time without not taking one pill. So then I'm going round and round trying to get my medication. Then when I get over to the main unit and they get you up at 4 in the morning to go to this pill line that you stand there for like 45 minutes at 4 in the morning to go take the medicine. And I started telling them that I was getting sick taking the medicine before I ate. It wasn't making me feel well, and I was throwing it up. So here they are there putting me in confinement because I said I signed the refusal on the morning meds and just was going to take it in the evening. It's just so backwards. But then when they weren't giving it to me, it's just everything is so backwards and such a problem at this place as far as anything that if you need it, they're not going to do it for you. If you fight with them, they're going to make it a problem. They're going to put you in confinement. It's just an awful, awful backwards place. I mean, I don't even know exactly how to describe it. Everything is just wrong. And if you do have some kind of problem, I mean, say you have a fever or something, you have to fill out a sick call, and then it's like 2 days later before you even go see a nurse, Or if you go a medical emergency, that's just a joke. They just send you right back, and it's just nothing. Like the one girl, I was on the compound when the girl Parapal died, and I watched all that happen, and I actually saw her go down to medical a few times, and they're sending her back, and I was in R&O as well with her, and confinement with her.
What was her name, Jessica?
Parapal, the 25-year-old with the trek line that died. Yeah.
Right.
I was there when she first got to prison, and she went to the main unit with me as well, and she only lived a few months in prison, and she died, and she went down to medical a few times and was telling them she was 3 days in a row she called a medical emergency. And then that final night, she died during count.
Wow.
I mean, she went down there and told them, and they would say rude things to her, like, oh, you're being, like, just make jokes about it. And I would hear them do that and send her back. I was actually down there when they sent her back. I think she had some kind of issues. I'm not really sure. She went to confinement a few times, so I'm not sure what the problems were directly with her with the officers, but they sent her right back, and I sat there that night, and I'll never forget it. It was count time, and we're all sitting on the beds, and then all of a sudden you can hear the back doors of the Bravo dorm come flying open, and you could see them. The nurses are coming with a wheelchair, and at this time, this girl I believe she was already gone, because you could see them working on her, and they actually did drive the ambulance on the compound, down the sidewalk, back up to the back of the dorm, and she was gone by that point.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, if you have if you have loved ones in there that have any serious medical condition, or not even a serious one, something minor can turn into something so major due to neglect.
Right.
Because even
Right.
when you go down there and see their medical staff, they're so incompetent and so rude and just so awful to anybody that you have anything to say that's wrong with you, and they're acting like you're making all this up or anything. You don't receive any help, and then it's like a week or two later before they're scheduling you to see this idiot of a doctor, if you're lucky enough to get that far past a nurse.
Right. Was that Dr. Rodriguez?
Oh yeah. And
Yeah.
then there's that awful, oh God, it's a lady, Nurse Rankford. Is she still there?
I'm not sure, but I know Rodriguez is.
Yeah, she's like because you don't really get to see Rodriguez that much. You have to go down there like 5 times to get to him. You have to go see the sick call nurse, then you get to see their, like, maybe an LPN or something?
Right.
What's the name of the kind of nurse that's like right underneath the doctor?
A nurse practitioner?
Yes. That's who Nurse Rankford was at the time when I was there last. And she's just god awful because I have several herniated discs in my back, and I was telling her I was having trouble doing a lot of things and I was having trouble walking, and she was just telling me I was overreacting, this, that, and the other, and that they did an x-ray and there was nothing wrong with the x-ray. Everything looks perfect. So I was making it up. So after that, I wrote home to my family and asked them to go to Mark Memorial and get a printout of my CAT scans and MRIs that were just done previously, that where it notes that all the conditions and everything causing mass effects on this, that, and all the diagnoses. And I bring that to her because I get it mailed to me, and she says, well, I can't accept this. And I said, why not? And she said, because we didn't do it. And I said, well, you can contact the hospital that did. Mark Memorial is a big medical center. It's, very well known. And you can get the thing, fax copies from the doctors. Well, I'll just put you down for an ultrasound. Then she says, well, nothing showed up on our ultrasound, so they did nothing about that.
Wow. That's unreal.
They are awful. I mean, it's just they don't want to do anything until it's too late or a disaster. That's when then they have to. And even when they have to, then they still try to get around doing it.
Right.
And they let you know that.
So while you were incarcerated, did you have family support? Did your family put money on your canteen? Or were you pretty much on your own?
Well, so the last time, yes, but some of the times before, they were not able at that time. So it's really hard if there's, you have loved ones and they're in there without any money or anything like that. They just don't provide enough, without anything, Sorry about that. Somebody. Yeah, am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. I will say that the state, considering how much money they get per day, per inmate, and all that, to be what they give you to survive on is nothing. And they don't even like to give, you have to, the toilet, oh goodness.
That's all right.
They don't like to give
you.
Yeah. They don't like to give you anything, and they give you the one roll of toilet paper and not enough toothpaste and not enough pads, and then you have to go up and ask the officer if they feel like giving it to you, if they feel like putting their food down in their air-conditioned little office, if they feel like giving it to you.
Right.
And people that don't have any money sent to them have it really bad because you don't get enough stuff from the state, and not even near enough to, they don't, and then indigent packets come around every 90 days if they're lucky. And then I've watched sergeants come through and, do what they call a shakedown. And I've watched them go to some of the girls that are indigent and throw their stuff out because they don't have the receipt for those items.
Wow.
You know, and because they get it through the package and it doesn't say, say for example, you know, when they're donated, they get all different, you know, brands of stuff, whatever
Right.
they can get, you know. So I watched one sergeant, and I can just think of it clear as day, him come through, open the girl's locker, and say, do you have the receipt for, you put the lotion, this, that, and the other on the bed? And she said, no, they came from the indigent package. And he said, well, that won't work for me, took the trash bag and threw all her stuff in there. And she said, sir, I'm
Oh my
indigent, I don't have
goodness.
anything. And he just
I've
threw her
sent,
stuff out.
I've sent a lot of lotion, shampoo, deodorant, and stuff to Lowell. Wow, that's discouraging.
It really is. It's awful.
What
Over a
food?
receipt. It's not even food, you know, it's hygiene products. And the girl, I just remember it clear as day in my mind, arguing back and forth with the man, please, can I please have that back? I don't have any money. It came from the indigent pack. Why are you taking that from me?
Wow.
They just pick certain, just anything they can to be mean.
Wow.
And just degrade you and cut you down and just, and then I see where they're trying to take the visitation away. And you know, or limit it because they say contraband, when they just want to monopolize the contraband because it comes from the officers. I mean, yes,
Right.
it does some come from other people or whatnot, but if I want to go get a carton of cigarettes on that compound, it's going to come from an officer.
Right.
If I want to go, and they pay $1.50 for the brown cigar 305 clippers out here on the street and sell them for $100 in there.
Wow.
That's why they want to monopolize a carton of Clipper brown cigarettes, or whatever they're called, that are maybe $15, $16 a carton. The cheapest cigarettes you can buy, $400 for a carton.
Wow.
That's what the problem is. It's not it's coming in and they don't have the people to work it. They want to monopolize it and control any aspect of it and make sure they're making all the money. I truly believe that.
Right. Wow. So were you in any programs, or were you offered any programs?
I could get to the church and stuff, but as far as all the other programs, I know they had Cosmo. I know they did away with the drafting. I honestly don't really think there's much else.
Right. Well, there was culinary, but then the cook
Yeah, they do have.
retired, and then supposedly they just hired another cook for culinary, and then there's Pride, and then now they have an IT, internet technology.
Oh, wow.
A computer course, but who knows how that is.
Well, they wouldn't let me do culinary because I had medical issues, and so I had passes that wouldn't allow me to be working with sharps and hots and stuff and certain things because of the seizures.
Right.
So then that just ruled me out of that area. And at the time I was there, you could do Pride, but at the same time I couldn't do Pride either because of the medical issues.
Okay. So is there anything is there anything in prison that was helpful to you when you got on the outside? I mean, anything positive that you can think of?
No.
No.
I really, honest to God, I'm trying to think. And
No.
I mean, I just don't see what any good of somebody, an officer getting in your face and calling you every name in the book, and then, taking advantage of women that may not have any money and just trying to survive and hustle the little things that they can to, get the things that they want and, make them do sexual acts for it or whatever, the negotiation is just to be able to get basic necessities. I don't see, and they treat you just horribly, and you have to, about be dead, if not even that, to get any medical treatment. So there's no rehabilitation. There's no programs as far as, all these people are coming in there, off the streets being addicted to drugs and trying to, change that pattern, change that lifestyle. They put you right back out there with not a dime to your name, no programs, no nothing.
So, okay. So Jessica, when you were getting ready to get out, did they help you with any transitional stuff or let you know where there was housing or
No,
counseling or
they told me that if you were interested in trying to go to like some kind of transition housing, that they said you can write some letters to a bunch of houses, and if you get accepted, you get accepted.
and that was it?
Yeah,
Wow. So
and that was
there was nothing.
they lost their funding for supposedly like 90 days before your release a few years ago. They used to call you down there and you'd go a couple times a week to, to the transition thing or whatever it was called. So I guess that shut down because you don't meet in the classroom anymore. You just go to one day, you go to do your picture over on the annex. This is when you're at the main unit. You'll go take your release picture, and then you'll meet with your classification officer. She'll let you make one phone call to your family to let them know the bus time, and then you'll go up to property and give the lady your sizes. If your family doesn't send you an EOS package with clothes, they'll try to get you some kind of clothes to wear out of there, and they give you a bus ticket. And if you had any money in your account in the last 6 months sent in from the outside, that you wouldn't receive the $50 that they used to give you when you're released.
So you do get the money from that account or you don't?
No, if you've received $1 within 6 months of your release date, you don't get the 50.
Really?
So say this, I know this for a fact because this was last time when I was released. If you say you're being released December 1st, and what's 6 months from then? What, June? Okay, so say June 1st you received $25 from your mom, and you never got another dime for 6 more months, and you're released, you won't get the $50 because you had money put in your account within 180 days of your release.
Goodness. Okay, so now
They
you're
put you on a
out.
bus. Yeah, they put you
So
on a
now you're
bus
out.
10 hours
Do they,
away from home.
do they take you to the bus?
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
Now, well, I'll tell you the crazy part that happened with me. I was released in 2016, and I guess there was a major hurricane or something happened in Tallahassee. And we get to the Greyhound station. Greyhound's closed. So here I am released, and they drive me back to Lowell. So
Oh
we're
my,
sitting at Lowell for, I don't know, in the little control room they have me sitting there, not telling me nothing, for, I don't know, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon comes. They still don't know what they're going to do. So they had to get approval for a sergeant to drive me all the way back to Fort Pierce and drop me off at a police department.
wow.
Yep, that's how that went.
So when you got out, were you able to stay with your family?
No, not at that point. The sergeant dropped me off at the Fort Pierce Police Department, and at that point, I had to figure that one out.
So did your family come get you or, I mean,
No, at that point, I was back on the street, and I wasn't in contact with them until a few months later, and when all my medical stuff was coming up.
okay. So when you got out, you basically went back to what you were doing before.
Yeah, I had to figure out somewhere to stay and some way to eat and survive.
Okay. So why didn't you go back to your family or why didn't you?
That wasn't an option at that time. They had sent me a little bit of money while I was in there, but they weren't situated at that time to have me coming and living in their home and everything. So.
Oh, okay. Okay. So how has your prison experience affected you on the outside as far as psychologically, emotionally, physically?
Oh, it doesn't put you in any kind of state of mind, physically, mentally, or anything to be prepared to come back out here. You're dealing with people just being so rude and abusive, and nothing that they're teaching you there is anything that reapplies out here in the free world on how to act on a job, or talk to somebody with respect or anything. They're just they just cut you down so badly, and just the mental and physical abuse that they give you there, it's not going to help out here to regain a normal lifestyle. It's your anxiety's so bad coming out of there, and you're so shell shocked and everything else because everything changing out here. It doesn't set you up for success. It sets you up for failure. I mean, just honestly, it does.
Right, right. So what do you think, what changes do you think need to be done in the prison system to change? Well, we pretty much know, right? Medical.
Yeah. Yeah, medical is awful.
Right.
But as far as if they want to give us this long periods of time in there, for what's the point if you're not correcting anybody or teaching them anything new? You're teaching them basically worse things to do, and they need to be teaching you how to live the life that you obviously weren't living correctly, and counseling, rehabilitation, drug classes, treatment, treatment for counseling for abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse. When I ended up back in prison, you're coming off of the street of just completely wore out on drugs. You're at your wit's end, and been out there just doing everything from stealing to prostitution to whatever it is that is your thing, to support your habit, and none of it's good.
Right.
And they need to be, teaching you how to, classes on how to parent your children and, work on, self-esteem and build yourself back up, not tear you down.
Right.
And how to get a job and educate you on things that are going to, help you make those changes. Because if you don't get help making any changes, then how could anything different happen?
Right. Right. Okay. Well, we're going to wrap it up. Do you have any final words before we end?
I just want to say that, we all need to get our voice out here and tell our stories and keep them coming. And thank you, Miss Kathy, for being a voice for so many in there that don't have family out here and don't have contacts and don't have any rights. Everything's been stripped from you. And even if it's just a few programs or a few things that change, it helps, because if we don't do it and nobody steps up, nothing's gonna change. And there's so much that needs to change in those places. And any help at this point, I believe in there would be a true blessing.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you, Jessica.